Have you ever felt stuck where you were just questioning your abilities and wondering if you could really start something from scratch? Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to write a song, or learn to play an instrument, or become the president of a club or the captain of a team. Well, 5 years ago, I launched this podcast. And it transformed my life in ways that I obviously would have never imagined, because when we try to create something or start something, we don't really know what the end product or what's going to happen even a year after that. But now 5 years have happened. And I've been a full-time producer of the show. I've done all the editing, the creating, the figuring out so many things. I'm a solopreneur. Like, everything I do in my business, besides the podcast and the YouTube channel, the coaching and the parent support and the workshops and everything I do, I create everything on my own. And I've learned a lot of lessons, but since this is a 5-year anniversary, I'm going to tell you about the 5 lessons that I've learned in these 5 years of podcasting. And my promise to you is that by the end of this podcast, you will have some insights into how these 5 lessons can apply to your journey and what you're doing. I hope it will help you to stop doubting your own insecurity, creativity, understand that sometimes we need to pivot or change, and that success just means showing up and doing the thing, whatever it is that you want to do. So let's dive into the first lesson. My first lesson that I learned is I am not lazy. And for many years, I said that I was lazy. And I said that because I love relaxing. I love naps. I love reading books. I love watching TV. I love video games. All of these things are pretty much sedentary activities. And I get so excited at the end of a workday. And this is what's so crazy is that my job is sedentary. I sit here writing my episodes, editing my videos, recording my videos, coaching teens, coaching their parents, teaching webinars. I mean, I am networking with people. Everything is done right here, sitting in a seat. I probably sit, 10 hours a day. Obviously, I get up to go to the bathroom, get a snack, eat lunch, whatever. But almost everything is done sitting here. And what I cannot wait for the end of the workday to do is to read, watch a video, take a nap. So I love non-physical activity, but that's not good for my health, my mental health, or my physical health. And I know that. And so I've just always said I'm lazy. And I mean, I'm lazy like I don't want to go do movement things. I have to force myself to do those things. And also, when I was in high school, some, and in college also, people would spend like a whole weekend working on a paper or studying for a test, or, they were like, I never slept the whole time I was working on the stuff. And I was always like, well, Sunday night at 6, I just wrote it, or I just looked at my notes, or whatever it was. And I used to think, oh, I must be lazy because I didn't spend the whole weekend. But really, my brain just processed the information differently. And so instead of saying that I was lazy, it's just like how I prioritize my time, because I didn't need a whole weekend to study for a test or write a paper. So when you think about all the Tuesdays in 5 years, I never missed an episode. There has always been one up. I've not even really replayed too many. I think maybe in year 3 of the anniversary, I did like the best of series for a couple of weeks where I took clips from different ones and kind of just put them together in a like over a theme or something. And that was fun to do, and I didn't have to like come up with new content, but it was still like I had to create those videos. I had to find the clips. I had to put them together. I had to put the videos together. So none of it's been lazy. And I finally realized I don't say I'm lazy anymore. I'm prioritizing my time according to how I deal with things. And our brains want to be sedentary. Our brains want to expel as little energy as possible. And that's part of our genetic makeup. And a lot of us have to make ourselves do the things that need to be done around our house or, the taxes or exercising or whatever, because our body really doesn't want to do those things. So I am not lazy. I've said that forever, but it's definitely not, I'm really not lazy. And I proved that to myself over these 5 years. The second big lesson is I am creative. And I always thought that being creative meant that you were painting a picture or you were writing a song or you were, I don't, there's so many things that you could be, just something artistic or something. I never thought about myself as creative. I always felt like I wasn't creative because I like a recipe, I like a checklist. And to me, creative people just take a blank canvas and out of nowhere, they're creating something. And I feel like I can't do that. But when I think about, I wrote these episodes, I created the promo graphics that went along with it. There's just so much creativity in creating this whole business, creating the podcast. Everything I do is creative. And I now call myself a digital artist. I went to an art class where you learn to draw. I think it was last year, I took a couple of lessons in drawing, and he asked the class, who here is, I think he said, who is already an artist or something like that. And I would have never said that I was an artist ever in my life. But I immediately said, I'm a digital artist because of the graphics that I have to create for the podcast and for the different episodes, or maybe something that I'm promoting, or now YouTube thumbnails. That's like a huge thing, like how you create them, what you put on them. And so all of that is, I am a digital artist, and I just never would have thought about that before. Now I love Canva because they kind of take away the blank canvas part for me, because I'm pretty sure I still couldn't just click a blank square and put the stuff on it and make it look good. I love the templates because some graphic artist who is good at that created how they put it together. I just look for the ones that I aesthetically please me. And then I put my own colors and pictures and ideas, or, move things around or whatever. And I'm definitely a recipe person. Like, I couldn't just take ingredients and make something. I'd have to like see how do you put them together? Or if there's a whole box of Legos, I like to have the instructions or the pictures so I can see what they used, and then I can put stuff together. But like just taking those blocks and making something, I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. And that's okay. I used to think that meant there was something bad about me, that I couldn't do it. And now I realize it's just, I am a creative person. I'm just creative in a different way. And that's okay. A third lesson that I learned is that change or pivots are okay and actually needed when you're building something. And so when I started this podcast, I'm going to move the microphone around because I hate it when it's like hitting my face. When I started this podcast, I named it Better Regulate Than Never. And if you've been listening for 5 years, you remember I used to say, hello, this is Better Regulate Than Never. I actually don't remember what I said. I said the same thing every time. But I loved that name. It's so cute. And my podcast originally was for teens about emotional regulation, not just anxiety, but any emotions. How do you regulate your emotions? Because after 31 years of working in the school system and having thousands of kids in my office, I knew that if they could regulate their emotions, then they could do anything. and they didn't know that how to regulate their emotions, or they didn't know they could regulate them. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, every young person needs this information. And I still believe that. Like every human needs this information, but especially young people, because they have a longer time to use that information, and they will know how to regulate before they ever even have kids, which is a whole nother thing. But if you don't know how to regulate your emotions, and then you have kids and their emotions are unregulated and yours are unregulated, it's kind of a big mess. The same thing happens in school with educators. If educators don't know how to regulate themselves, and then the students are dysregulated adults cannot help dysregulated kids get regulated. And so anyway, there was so much of that going on. And so better regulate than never is it's just so cute. I still love that title so much. So that's how I started. And I was like, this is so cute and clever, and this is exactly what I want to do, whatever. And then over the first 3 years of my podcast, it grew because it just was consistent and it was out there, but lots of podcast strategists or people that help you grow your podcast would tell me you need to change your name. And I was just so married to that name. I loved it so much. And it was just so, I named my LLC Better Regulate Than Never LLC. Like everything about my life and my business was Better Regulate Than Never. And then I just decided, after hearing this over and over again, and my podcast growth was just always staying just steady. It was never actually growing. I decided, okay, so, I talked to a strategist again. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to change my name. So let's talk about like, what in the world would that even be? And they were like, well, what of all your clients and the people that talk to you about your work or your podcast, what are they mostly asking you about? And I realized that most people were talking about and asking about anxiety. And so he said, okay, it needs to be that in the title, it has to have something about anxiety. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I spent, a week or so, like really putting different names and words together. And I finally came up with the Teen Anxiety Maze, because I feel like anxiety to parents and to kids feels like, I don't know how to get through this thing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Where am I supposed to go? Which direction do I go? And so it totally made sense. And I love that name now. And it totally made a difference. Like I couldn't believe that just changing the name, everything changed about how many people were listening. And you can see when you look at a graph of, my downloads and listens over the years, it just jumped exponentially in like 3 or 4 months, just changing the name, because people then knew, oh, I'm looking up about teen anxiety. Oh, well, here's a podcast called the Teen Anxiety Maze. And it really did make a difference. So change and pivots are really important and actually help you grow. The other big pivot that I made in these 5 years is that I started this podcast I was talking to teens. I was talking to my own 15-year-old self who needed this information so badly. And every kid that has ever been in my office or ever been, on my caseload, like they all needed this information. So I was talking to that teen across the desk from me about emotional regulation. And I still think that's super important. But what I found out, kids would tell me, because I would ask them at school, because I started this when I was still working full-time in a school. I would say to kids, I said, hey, do you like podcasts? You listen to them? They're like, oh my gosh, yes, I love them. I listen to them. It's so great. Well, they're not listening to self-help podcasts. They're listening to true crime and comedy and entertainment, whatever. And I totally get it. I love those too. But kids are not looking for self-help. And I think part of it is because they don't feel like they have any control over that. One, because most of them are minors and their parents or teachers or whatever have so much power, or they feel like they have so much power over them that it's like, well, I can't do anything about how I feel because, other people have control of me. When really they have total control over how they feel. And I still want them to know that, but because they weren't listening and their parents were listening, or my friends who were educators were listening and still getting the information about anxiety so that they could talk to their kids or so that they could talk to their students in the classroom or in their counseling office, I decided I think the audience should be adults, parents, educators, people who are working with teens so that they can have the information because then they can teach it to their kid at home. They can teach it in their office. They can teach it in their classroom or at their church or wherever they're working with kids. And so the audience changed to parents and educators for the most part. I really do hope I have some young people listening, and please continue to listen because this is so important for you to hear. But I just felt like the people that are going to make this grow and the people that are going to hire me as a coach are the adults. And then I also went a lot to interview style, and I never thought about having an interview style podcast, but there were so many people that wanted to be guests, and they were all so good, and they all had so much information that I didn't have that I thought, well, if I'm talking to parents and all these people want to get in front of these parents, I want parents to know there's all these adults that they can turn to. It's not just me, though I would be honored to be your teen or young adults coach because I love working with young people. But, there are a lot of adults around, and there's also adults that are specializing in study skills or OCD or college entrance or grief or alcohol consumption or whatever. And those are things that I'm not working on with people. So, just find those people that you need and use them. So pivots are good. Lesson 4, I love, I can create something where nothing was there before. And that is just like mind blowing to me. And I mean, obviously we know that everything that we have in our lives that's been created wasn't there at one point and somebody created it and now we have it and pay for it or use it or whatever. But we are also creating things in our lives. And sometimes, like when I was working in the school system, I never really thought about, school already existed. My office already existed. School counseling already existed. I was just a person doing it and I was good at it and I was really helping people, but I never felt like I was creating what I was doing. It was just like a job that was there that I fulfilled. So building this business was like, this business didn't exist, this podcast didn't exist, and I thought something in my mind and I created it and I made it a thing. And I just find that to be so fascinating. And I want every human can do this. And it doesn't, not like some people don't want to have a podcast or be an entrepreneur, which I totally get not wanting to be an entrepreneur because it is, well, that's my 5th lesson, but it's a wild ride. But every person can create something if they want to from nothing. And Better Regulate Than Never turned into the Teen Anxiety Maze. And then because I had the Teen Anxiety Maze podcast, and I was already coaching kids, coaching teenagers and young adults, but I didn't have a program that I was like really running them through. I was just kind of like helping them with whatever. It was kind of like general life coaching for teenagers because I really didn't have like a super focus. And so then when I changed to anxiety being the focus, and I ran a couple of what I called worry workshops. I did some live and then I did some virtually. And I thought, I love I think there were I think it was 8 weeks long. And then I also got UMAP certified, which is the assessment that I give all my clients that tells them their strengths, values, skills, and interests. And if you wonder about that, there's other episodes about that. But so I got certified with that. I was doing these worry workshops and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to create a program that I run everybody through. And so I used the information that I had in my worry workshops and I made it into a program. And then I brought in the UMAP to be part of that program. So I'm creating all of that. And then I called it the Anxiety Maze Navigator. So anxiety is a maze. We don't know which way we're going. My coaching program helps guide you through anxiety so that you figure out how to manage it. And now I have a parent program where I'm helping support parents, and it's called Parenting Through the Maze. And so they're parenting their young person through this anxiety maze. So I love that all these things just came together, and it was kind of like a progression of things, and you had to have one thing before you had the other thing. And I just love the idea of creating something where nothing was before. And then the fifth lesson is success isn't a straight line or linear. And I mean, I worked in education for 31 years. I know that sometimes you get an A plus, and then the next time you might get a C, or I might have a student that turned in all their homework for 9 weeks, and then something happens and they go back and don't do it again. And so I understand that success is a zigzag line. Like I lived that, but my own job in that always felt like it was always going up. So every year I was more experienced, I was better, more people knew what I was doing, I got more accolades, I got great evaluations. I mean, everything was always like good feedback, positive feedback. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't have angry parents or angry kids, because there's no way anyone lives their life without that. But those were very few compared to all the good stuff that I was getting. And so I probably daily got positive feedback that I was doing the right thing, that I was doing a good job, that somebody got help, somebody had a transformation, a parent sent me an email to say, "Oh, thank you so much. This was so helpful." And I kind of got used to, I am successful. Like that was the only thing that I was thinking. And so I just thought, when I start this business, I will immediately be successful and it will be constant positive feedback. And that is so not what happens when you're an entrepreneur. It's well, I shouldn't say very inconsistent. For me, it's been very inconsistent. And it's not lack of me being consistent, because I work in here every single day. Like with the podcast, it's always there. But that consistent action doesn't equal consistent clients or consistent feedback from people that's positive. And I have to shore myself up now. And I have to remind myself all the time that, it's fine. It's going the right direction. And it really is going in the right direction. And it's kind of like when I was trying to lose weight, one time somebody said, weigh yourself every day. And I was like, oh, I don't want to weigh myself every day. But when I weighed myself every day, I saw that I had fluctuations every day. Now, maybe if you looked at a Friday to a Friday, you would see that something like your weight went down. But sometimes your weight went up, but it went down in the week and then it came back up. And it has so much to do with like water weight, and like it isn't just about this like one static number or whatever. And so now I look at what is happening throughout time, and I can see that there is a going up over time, and I just need to remind myself that that's happening. But it, on a day-to-day basis or even month-to-month basis, it's up and down, and that's okay. And I need to be okay with that. And it's really, all of these things have really made me grow into this person that I would have never imagined could have even happened. Okay, so to recap the 5 lessons I learned, I am not lazy. I am creative. Change or pivots are okay and necessary. I can create something new from nothing. And success isn't a straight line or linear. These insights that I got didn't just grow my podcast, they grew me. And my whole idea of this podcast was to help young people grow in their emotional lives, their emotional intelligence, that emotional regulation. And so you're not alone in this journey. I am experiencing these same things, maybe in a different realm, because now my kids are out of the home and I'm experiencing, anxiety, fear, frustration, annoyance, whatever about my business. And it isn't so much about outside things, but it all works the same. Like I still have to regulate myself, like you have to regulate yourself. and I deal with it every day. It doesn't, once you learn to regulate, doesn't mean you never have to do it again. It just means that you get really good and you can be faster at it so that you can get out of those negative emotions or those uncomfortable emotions a lot faster than you could before. And they don't like stop you. My anxiety and frustration and annoyance and sadness that I get sometimes about my business doesn't stop me from going forward. And sometimes I think for kids, when they feel that uncomfortableness, it stops them from wanting to go to school or meet new friends or do a new activity or even be with old friends. So, if you want to dive deeper into all this stuff that goes on in my podcast and in my business, I invite you to sign up for my monthly workshop. I'm going to have a workshop every month. And this month of September, I'll put the link to the workshop this month. And I really want to do a different topic every month. I think it would be fun. I haven't tried that before. I sometimes just did the same workshop over and over again to kind of perfect it. But I think now I just want to like give more information to parents, and you can kind of pick and choose the ones that are interesting to you that you feel like you need to know about. Or you can book your family's next step session. And in that, you just tell me what your situation is, what's going on at home, and what you're concerned about. And then we can look at all of my offerings and see if any of those are a good fit. And I will give you a private tour of the parent membership so you can see what's in there. And if you think the parent support would be more helpful to you, if you think the one-to-one coaching with your teen or young adult would be the most helpful, if you think, I can talk to you more about what the workshop is that month and like, is that what you want to start with and kind of see what's going on? And if none of those things, I know a lot of people and I can refer you to many different types of people. If you go back and look at all my guests, that practically every topic of work and coaching that you can imagine for yourself or teens is in there. I can introduce you to those people if that's what you need. Maybe your child needs therapy and we can talk about that, and I can tell you best practices where that is concerned, because I have a lot of experience and I've worked with thousands of young people, and so I would be able to help you go into the next step. So all of that, I think I would have loved to have had somebody that can do that. So I would love to talk to you. So sign up either for the Family's Next Step session or the free workshop, because you can talk to me there too, because it's live and I will be there and you can ask me questions. But however, whatever feels good to you, let's do it. And I want to thank everyone, whether you just started listening to me recently or you started back with me in September of 2020. I thank you so much, and I'm so grateful for you, because people who do content creation businesses and coaching businesses, they need people that care about what they're saying and follow them and listen to them and subscribe to them and all the things. I mean, that's what helps our business grow and helps more people to know about it. And I thank you for that, because it is your time, and time is so precious. I understand that. And I don't want to waste anyone's time by, what I'm doing and how I'm trying to help. And so please just know that I love you and I care for you and I want to help you if that's what you're needing, or if this podcast just shores you up for the day, which I have podcasts that do that. I just listen so I can be like, okay, I'm ready to tackle this. I'm ready to go on. Then I'm glad I'm that for you too. So, and send me a message. Tell me what has been helpful to you in the last 5 years with the podcast, or what one of my clients has Cynthia one-liners that she writes down, because she's like, oh my gosh, when you said that changed everything. And so maybe there's a one-liner you heard that you were like, oh my gosh, that changed everything. So let me know. I'd love to hear what you think about that. And I plan to be here for maybe 5 more years. So I'll talk to you soon.